Welcome back to another episode of Rob and Avis Ramble. It's been a little bit. We'll try not to belabor too long. We're both kind of tired.
Belabor.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's
Plus
not do that.
Plus not the fancy words. Is that different than labor? Is belabor?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we took we were out on the Vegas Strip last night and cut loose a little bit. Went out and had a nice steak dinner at a nice steak house that was good food, good dessert.
Ooh, the dessert was top notch.
Yeah, it was pretty good stuff. And had a few drinks and a few, like 3 a piece.
Yeah.
And then went back and had a good night of late night cardio in a cool hotel.
Yeah, it was a very nice room.
It was. Yeah, it was a great room. And that was a great deal. I was kind of deal surfing before we went and found a pretty good deal it's like a 1,200 square foot room. It's pretty nice, good size.
It was very comfortable.
But yeah, so the point being and all that we're both kind of dragging. We did not get good sleep last night, and we just got back home a bit ago and had a quiet moment in the house and figured it's been a while since we rambled, so
it has.
Let's ramble. Which is also why you're like, I'm tired. I look like crap. I don't really want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, it's a good opportunity. Let's do it. And there's a topic I want to talk about that's kind of relevant to right now.
Oh.
And I was like, just find yourself some sunglasses to wear.
I think you were joking, but I took you seriously.
It's perfect. I love it.
You have a topic. That's news. I didn't know you had a topic.
Well, I don't ever tell you. I like to blindside you with this stuff.
I know.
It keeps it more real, keeps the conversation more organic and kind of discussion, right? If we don't discuss this stuff first beforehand, then people are kind of getting the real deals that happen. So, so the topic is there was some. I wasn't on X a lot today, but there was some things I did see. I guess apparently the French president was getting off of his plane and. The AP, I guess, was videoing, and as he's getting ready to walk out the door, his wife kind of like, you can't see her, but you can see her hand, and he kind of faces her, and she reaches out, and she either like slaps him in the face or pushes him in the face or something. And I think from my recollection, he kind of turns around and looks wide-eyed at the camera for a minute, and then he turns around and like he goes back into the plane, whatever happened. I don't know what happened. And he did release some kind of statement like, oh, it was being playful. I don't know. His facial expression to me did not look playful when it happened. And so it got a lot of people kind of talking today, and especially a lot of men's right advocates, who are, obviously not in favor of women, who get violent with men.
Sure.
And so, and I saw some other kind of couples, some longer married couples chiming in, and they're like, we've been together 23 years, and my wife has never done anything like that to me at all, blah blah blah, which is good. I don't say blah 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 to like like that's a bad thing, so don't take that the wrong way.
Yeah, but
just a lot of just churn and discussion about it.
Sure.
And you and I, we like to have real discussions.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And because this is how we learn, this is how other people learn, right? And it's good, I think, to have, and we like to have the difficult conversations. Yeah. So we're going to have one of these difficult conversations, right?
Right. Okay.
So, you have, especially early on in our marriage, you were one of these wives that like you've had some issues with kind of violence, anger, whatever we're going to say about that. I don't really know what we're going to call it, but I've had many things thrown at me. Mm-hmm. You've hit me many times. Various things, right? And and then some of these MRA advocates, like they're like, you should, like, if any woman does anything like that to her, call the cops and have her thrown in jail, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And to be honest, there's been a few times that you have gotten so like just out of control in a sense, if we want to say that I said to you, like, look, I don't want to call the cops. Yeah. But like, you're putting me in a very difficult position right now. Right. And I thought we'd kind of talk through that, right? Because I don't know that women, and I know you're not the only woman like this out here. Clearly the French president's wife. Right?
I mean, it doesn't excuse it, but
it doesn't excuse it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's excusable actions.
Yeah. we're
I
not
regret every time that I ever did that.
not condoning the behavior,
No.
nothing like that, right? But it is a reality in some people's marriages, right?
Well, and it's what I knew growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was one of the things I kind of wanted to touch on is like not an excuse, but I think, people who pay attention to what I say on X, like I talk a lot of times about grace and not shaming people and just being forgiving, right? We should do all those things when we can. All of us are broken people in some way.
Yeah.
Every single one of you, all the relationship experts, all the whatever expert you are, you are still broken in some way. You might be broken in a different way than somebody else is.
Right.
Right. But what's important in kind of can make someone an expert is you're kind of working through these things.
Yeah.
Right. And you're figuring them out. And so, the people that are also struggling with those things, I think that's where those connections are made, right? You actually have some kind of healthy and meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
Because, if someone says, hey, I'm struggling with this thing, and you're like, oh, I don't know anything about that, never been through it.
Right.
Like, well, then that's going to be kind of hard for you to give valid advice, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah. So, yeah. So I guess that's a good place to start. So, when I was growing up, my father was actually very violent. He was an alcoholic. I've talked about this before. He's a pretty violent dude, especially when he drank. And you know, I was the how do I want to word it? I was the object of frustration sometimes when I was younger with my dad, and when he would get drunk. I've had my room tossed many times. I've had myself tossed many times. So I mean, I'm talking a little kid, right?
Yeah.
And my mom, on the other hand, very much not that.
Yeah.
She was never a violent person. In some ways, almost a little too meek at times. Especially when it came to my dad. And,
well, that's an interesting statement. You think she should have been standing up to him more?
There's clearly some conversations that needed to be had.
Conversations,
right?
yes.
Yeah. Like
you just left the door open. Like she might need to be more assertive, and maybe then because he was being physical, be like stronger, maybe physical back. But that's not what you're saying.
That's not what I'm saying. I mean, okay. I don't think anybody should. If somebody is harming you, right, you have a right to defend yourself.
Yes.
Right. Whether you're a man or a woman, you have a right to defend yourself. Right.
Yeah.
Because you can't just let someone injure you.
Right.
Badly. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I would say that extends to women. I mean,
sure.
these men who are beating up women, obviously have a lot. They have a lot of problems. It's inexcusable, and a woman has a right to defend herself.
Yeah.
If that's truly what it is, right? So, but my dad, I don't really recall him really getting violent with my mom. He was more violent, like, with stuff. He would throw stuff, he would do stuff, right? And then for whatever reason, myself and my brother. But my mom, not really. But it also, I think it went back to he didn't really want kids. He didn't like, so I think we were a lot of kind of frustration for him.
Yeah.
Right. And that kind of came out when he drank. But anyways, but that's my background. So, coming into our marriage, in our relationship, that was kind of what I grew up with and had modeled, right? I had and I knew very much like I did not want to be my father, right?
Right.
And I never had a mom that I saw her being violent in any way.
Right.
But what was your experience?
My whole family was violent. I think I come from family background that doesn't have the hard conversations. I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah, tough conversation.
It is, because I'm not proud of it. But, like we met one of our neighbors because my parents were outside fighting and broke a window on the neighbor's car. Like one of them put the other one into the car so hard that a window broke.
Who was this? This was
my father and mother.
Oh, yeah.
So, like that's just what I grew up with. And then you didn't fight back. And that was infuriating, right? Like the way that I talked about things was to raise my voice and scream and yell. And like, I would just lose my mind basically. And then you would just be super calm. And I didn't know how to handle that either.
Yeah. You're making me choke up now.
Well, this is your fault. You didn't warn me.
Well, I want an authentic conversation.
Is this authentic enough for you?
I knew this would be a difficult conversation.
I'm tired. I didn't know my nose is running.
I didn't know it was going to be so difficult for me. I didn't know it was going to make me upset.
But yeah, and like they were partiers, and people would come to my house, and they would get into fights, and
yeah. So that's what you grew up with.
Yeah,
that's how it was modeled.
Yes, and our altercations were frustration because I didn't know any different. I knew it wasn't right. I knew I didn't want to be losing myself, but I didn't know any other way. And so the hard conversations, right? Like as soon as I started like realizing, okay, well, instead of losing my crap, I can yell, we need to have this talk, like, and we're going to talk about it right now. And then like the more we learned to have the hard conversations, the easier it was for me to walk away from that because I was just really trying to be heard and trying to get resolve on an issue.
Right. And that's how you were taught to communicate, basically.
Yes. Yeah. Whoever yelled the loudest kind of won the conversation.
Right. So instead of like sitting down and having like a real conversation, it was more like we're going to throw fists, we're going to throw stuff, we're going to like
exactly
whatever that was.
Yeah. And you know, when my parents divorced, and my dad really had a hard time with his temper, and like we lived with holes in the walls most times. Like once one would get fixed, it wouldn't be long, there would be another one, and you know, he was left with my sister and I, and that was very challenging. My sister was a very challenging toddler and would just scream a lot all the time.
She's calmed down quite a bit now, but still challenging at times.
Yes. And, you know, and then at that particular time, I'm 8.5 years older. I'm kind of taking on a parental role and helping with her. And so there was a lot of like, my dad wouldn't know what to do with his frustration. And then, so I'm between him and her, and it was just a crazy upbringing. And that's what I learned. And you were gracious and supportive and patient and helped me learn out of that. Mostly. Now I just try to throw socks.
Yeah. I still, even to this day, occasionally get socks or something thrown at me, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard, you know, when you grow up with that. I mean, you had, you know, basically, I don't really think it'd be fair to call it 18 years of it, because by the time you were like your late teens, like your dad was in a different situation. Things were getting a little bit better.
Yeah. I mean,
in a different situation.
He still has quite a temper.
He does.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. He's calmed down a bit, though. Even since the time, you know, like we've mentioned before, we've been together 33-4 years, something like that now. And and like, I mean, just in the time that I've known your father, he's, from what I remember from him, like, you know, when we were first together to now, like, he's changed a lot. And he would tell you the same thing. Like, you know, if you talk to him, he'd be like, like I have a bad temper and it's something I need to work on. Right. But like, he's improved.
Yes.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that is what my brain thought relationships did when something needed to be worked out.
Right. So there's some fun. And so, you know, and we've talked about this before, but like when we talk about, like, we both came from pretty broken family situation, and we've talked about this in detail. Feel free to go back and look, and I've posted about it. Like, feel free to dig for it. And if you have any questions, I'll point you to a post or something. I'll tell you a little more history about us. But like, we came from pretty broken family situations, right?
Yeah.
And so when you have two people that kind of come in and they both kind of have baggage in a lot of it, right? It's going to be hard, right?
Yeah. And despite my dad having 2 marriages, I still don't think I was given a really good picture of what a nice functional marriage looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. Because your dad, even when he remarried, there's other baggage that came into that, right?
Yeah.
And new problems. And
new different problems, and, you know, stepmom, not birth mom. And that is a whole new dynamic. And so, I mean, I really like, you can see the damage.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So where did I want to go from here? So we, you know,
up.
Go up. Let's try to lift this conversation a little bit. Yeah. Well, okay. So I think So obviously we had this going on, right? And there was, you know, I think when we talk about having the hard conversations, right? So if you can just kind of imagine, like, we've got this, I've got this wife who I love very much, right? But she has this, this is how she learned to communicate, right? It wasn't that, like, I don't know. I mean, I hesitate to call it a sickness, but, like, I guess when we learn bad behavior, I don't know, sometimes we label it that way, right? But you came in with sort of this, like, poor behavior. This is what was modeled to you. This is what you thought it was. I was coming from a different kind of mindset where I also had some exposure to that through my father only, but, you know, I very much didn't want to be about that, right? And then coupled with being a man, and, you know, I've always had a pretty, you know, for whatever reason, kind of, I want to say chivalrous.
Chivalrous? I would agree with that.
Yeah. But like, in my world, I'm like, you don't hit women. You don't, like, you don't, like, you're there to protect women. Right. And so having someone who's kind of violently attacking me, who's like my wife, right? And it's like, how do I deal with this? Right.
Yeah.
And like, and then, you know, and there have been times where I have not, I don't want to say laid hands on you necessarily, but just tried to control you physically, right? Because I can't let you hit me, continue to hit me. Like, at some point, if you get enough hits in on me, like, you may actually hurt me. Right. Especially when you're using objects or whatever it may be, right?
I usually take my aggression out on objects.
Yes, usually.
Yes.
But so, you know, it puts a man in a very difficult position, right? Because if I were to, let's just say that you were coming after me in, you know, this very we'll just call it passionate way.
Sure, passionate.
We're gonna lift it, right? We're gonna lift it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have choices, right? And if I were to respond back to you in a way that I actually ended up hurting you, which I, you know, would kind of be breaking my moral code, which I think would be difficult on me.
Right.
But also, like, if it came to any sort of legal, you know, it just puts a man in a very difficult position, right? Because typically the courts, they're viewing women as the weaker vessel, right? Men as being the aggressors. You know, I think they typically, you know, they're not as fair when it comes to domestic violence situations for men versus women, and men may at times be accused. So, you know, it's just hard. So I said to you, kind of, you know, as we learned to talk about this over the years, as it was a thing, you know, and just, you know, try to explain to you, like, the difficult position it has put me in.
Sure.
Right.
And that's never been lost on me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's, like, but that's important. Like, when we say have the difficult conversations, this is a good example of kind of the thing we're talking about, right? Like, I don't shy away from saying to her, like, hey, dummy, like, look at the position you're putting me in. Like, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Like, what am I supposed to do here? Right.
Yeah.
Like, if I wanted to flatten you, I could.
Right.
I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to be put in a position to have to do that.
Yes.
And you know, and neither do you.
Right.
Right. So, like, what is really the underlying thing? And I think this kind of, like, I think this was kind of, like, been one of the very key things to our marriage when we talk about having the difficult conversations that kind of led us to that place, because rather than you acting out in aggression, right, it kind of, like, transformed more into, like, hey, this is, like, we can have these hard conversations. Right?
Yeah. Or just be frank with one another. I think, like, you know, like, what am I trying to say? I think, you know, like, early on, it was like I was uncomfortable being like, yeah, I'm just going to move this laundry off the bed tonight and deal with it tomorrow, versus, like, I'm going to pressure myself to fold this laundry. And, like, in the past, like, that would make me feel uneasy. Or then if you would say anything about it, I would jump to trying to defend myself and like defend my position, like, but not just be like, yeah, I'm tired. Like, early in our marriage, you know, like, then I would feel like, oh, I'm a bad person. Like,
yeah. And I think that's, that's something to talk about too, that, people that come from difficult family backgrounds, right?
Mhm.
I think, when we talk about the kind of baggage you come with, I mean, learned behavior is one of those, but I think there's another whole set of like, just, I don't know what they even call it, but like there's things that you believe about yourself that may not necessarily be true, but that's what you came out of it with because of the way that your parents treated you. Or like, I'm sure you can, I mean, I'll just use myself an example. Like, I think if you can imagine, you've got a father who's like being violent with you and he's beating you and he's like all these sorts of things. What does that tell a kid?
Yeah.
Right. It's certainly not love and respect and like,
Yeah.
those sort of things. It's sending like different messages about yourself, right? And how you may see yourself and those things. So I think, and every situation is going to be a little bit different, but you're going to come in with some sort of skewed beliefs about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for you, that was kind of feeling like what? That like
unworthy. Great topic, Rob.
Yeah.
Great.
It's hard.
I'm loving this.
It's hard to hear. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was, and I wasn't unhappy as a kid.
Yeah.
You just like, you don't know until you know something different. Yeah.
Here, I'm going to touch your breast. We'll lighten it up. How about that?
Whatever, man. But yeah, so like, I think that's what changed for me when I met you. But it took years for me to grow out of that pattern.
Yeah.
And your grace and patience and ability to just restrain me and give me the grace and the time to reflect, knowing that I didn't want to be that person, made me worthy.
Yeah.
And now I cry in public.
You're making my eyes water today.
Oh.
It's hard to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
like I
I'm
said,
gonna lose my man card, shedding a few tears.
I didn't know any different. I wasn't unhappy as a child.
Yeah.
So that's the weird part.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think kids are pretty resilient, right? And it's like you don't know what you don't know, and it's like even if you're a kid and like someone is like telling you that you're bad, right? Like it's still kind of normal to you. So like you still may kind of feel happy, right? But like your happy is like, oh, you're bad, but that's just who I am, and so I'll just be happy about it or whatever it is. I don't know if that's making any sense, but
yeah. So, anyways.
Enough difficult conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know we were going to therapy.
I didn't know it was going to turn into this either. But hey, we're trying to have authentic conversations, right? And
I am very tired too.
And you're very tired. Yeah, it's a tired. We didn't get much sleep last night. My Garmin sleep score was like at 28 or something. Those are just tears of sleepiness.
Okay, that's acceptable.
So yeah, but I so where I was started to go somewhere with this, and then I got sidetracked here.
I am not really sure. This started out with the president's wife,
the French president.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think okay. So I think where I wanted to go with that is like I think just what I would say to married couples, right? Like maybe this is not the issue in your marriage, right? But there's some issue. For us, this has been a pretty big issue. And things like today, 1,000 times better than they were 20 years ago.
Oh,
right?
Heck yeah.
Easy. Yeah. But you can work through these things, right? And we and even in that time, it wasn't like it's like a bad marriage, right? I don't want to say it like we've always had a good marriage and we've always had a good like sexual connection and like just got along and hung out and did fun things together, right? But then like any couple, there's going to be topics There's going to be things that are going to happen. There's going to be like, I'm asserting, some thing in our marriage. I don't know what it is. And you're not as agreeable to it, right? Like it's not a thing, right? And it causes dust ups. And over time that gets better and better and better and better. But I think, that's really the thing that I want people to hopefully that listen to this to get out of it.
Yeah.
Which is, you can have heart, right? Don't trash your marriage. And I understand there are some things that are going to pretty much trash a marriage, right?
Yeah.
And it may be a little bit different for other people. Like for me, like if there was any sort of infidelity, to me that is like an unforgivable, like, and maybe that's my, my hang up. I don't know. But, I just feel like it's pushing the like respect button way too hard. Right. And for me, I would be like, I don't like, this is unrecoverable. Right.
Yeah.
But this is not that, right? In terms of like what this issue is. Does this issue push my respect button? Yeah, for sure. Like, like when we're, especially years ago, right? Now it's like, and it's very, very rare. Like I actually made a post on X. I let you read it before I posted it. I was like, hey, you cool if I say this? Unlike this, where I just started a conversation with you, I didn't even warn you we were going to have it. But it's we were hiking. We were up in the Pacific Northwest hiking, and you were tired. You were having a little bit of a rough day, right? It was a hard hike. Yeah. It was and I was pushing you a little harder, and you were you've had some kind of weird stuff going on with your hip here and there, and it was we were doing a lot of elevation gain, and you were just having a rough day, right? And it kind of reached a boiling point in the woods, where you were like, that was it. The words started flying out, and and you reached out and kind of hit me, right? And so I don't say that to shame you, right? There's no shame here. There's no nothing like that.
I mean,
just
I
reality,
did it.
right?
I own it. It doesn't mean I'm proud of it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that like I know this about you, and it's going. These things are hard, guys, girls, right? It's like it's sometimes these things get ingrained in you. I mean, think about like you grow up with 20 years of this stuff, right? And we're in our early 50s now. Like 20 years is still a pretty significant portion of life to try to unlearn something, right? So if you had something hammered into you for 20 years and now you're trying to unlearn that thing, it can take time, right? I mean, especially in your younger years, right? Where it's like that's kind of when you're most absorbing information and your personality and your things are being formed. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just telling you kind of my understanding of it. But those are, we talk about how important the young years are, right? So like it would be unreasonable for me to kind of say like, I expect this thing about Avis that's, maybe like so many great qualities that Avis has, right? This is not one of them, but it would be unreasonable for me to say like, I mean, like she's never like, she's getting better, but it's not perfect.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of like where does your worldview and those sort of things come from, right? And I've said many times like we're Christians, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, like and I think like that is really the thing. So like if I can't give grace to my own wife, right, then like what's the point, right? I'm not actually practicing what I believe.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I mean, marriage involves a lot of grace.
Yeah, sure it does. And I'm not perfect either.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so
you didn't have to make me go on that hike.
I didn't, but I did.
Just saying.
So the point in all that is like, even today, like that was just a couple weeks ago. It was like a month ago, maybe.
Yeah.
I think. And it's very like, I mean, I can't remember the last time you had a blow up like that before that. Like it was been a while. Right.
Yeah.
But it's still a thing that's kind of in you.
Yeah.
And it's not worth trashing our marriage over, right?
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah. But
if I get too tired or too frustrated, yes.
Yeah.
It's always lingering.
Yeah. And you're a woman. And I know for some people, they're going to be like, that's not a valid excuse. Okay.
Well, I was PMSing.
Probably not, right? But like women tend to have way more hormonal issues than men have, right?
Yeah.
So like I think this is also, we like live in the real world.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't, and maybe, you know, just like, I mean, people can have hormonal issues, right? And so I'm sure there are women who have a different hormonal makeup that make it a little harder for them to control their emotions compared to other women, right? So when I hear these men or husbands and they're like, well, my wife has never, ever done anything like that. Great. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that, right? But maybe she has a little bit of a different hormonal makeup, right? And it makes it a little bit like maybe her emotions aren't so crazy.
Yeah.
You know, just because of that. And that's, again, this is like, it's not an excuse.
No.
Right? It's not an excuse. Just in the same way that like a man or husband who's beating his wife or beating his kids or something, and you're like, well, it's just a hormonal thing. Yeah. Right? Like, okay, maybe it is. That doesn't make it excusable, okay, but at least helps to understand it, right? And then is there something we can do about that? Is there like, you know, what is that?
Yeah.
Or just try to unlearn the behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
be better than the generation before you.
Yeah, all you can try to do. And I'm sure with I mean, as good of a marriage as we have, right? There's certainly ways we've screwed our kids up. Oh, I don't necessarily know what all those are yet. That'll probably come out in time. Yeah. You know, but that's real life. Nobody's perfect. Yeah. You know, that's real life. So, I started to go somewhere with this, and then I rambled, right? That's what we end up doing here. But like I went off in some other direction, and there was a point I wanted to make, and I feel like it's completely slipped by me now.
No
Do you remember what it was for me?
No.
I don't. You couldn't mind read it for me?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Not.
Yeah. I think I just, you know, what was I going to say? Oh, we were talking about respect. Right. And I was talking about like the things that push my respect button. Right.
Yeah.
So in this scenario, I mean, for maybe other people that have a wife who is kind of had these struggles, right?
Emotionally spicy.
Emotionally spicy. Okay. We'll go with that. You like for men, you know, or at least I can speak for myself, you know, and we have known a few other couples here and there. They're also kind of having these same issues, right? And I think, you know, in those cases too, like it is really like men, like respect is a huge thing, right? That is like one of the main things is like a driver for men is respect. It's like how other men treat you and respect you, and a lot of things men are doing in life and their behaviors are centered around like gaining respect, or, you know, right? Like respect's a big thing.
Yeah.
And to have your wife kind of like show you that much disrespect. Like I've said this to you before, right? Like if a man did to me what you just did to me, like we'd already be throwing fist, right? Like there's going to be some kind of bloodshed, right?
Right.
And, you know, but because of this dynamic, and it's a woman and it's your wife, and it's like, and it's pushing the man's respect button without a whole lot of like somewhere to take that.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. And admittedly on my own self too, like there have been times where it's like, you know, like you're pushing that respect button. Right. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to hit her. I may restrain her. Right. I'm not going to hit her. I'm not going to do whatever. I'm not going to harm her physically in some way. But like that aggression, it's like, I don't know what to do with that. Right.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll go work out. Maybe I'll go ride my bike. Maybe I have occasionally also maybe myself just thrown something, right? Because like it just needs to go somewhere. Right.
Yeah.
And you know, that's real life. Again, that's not awesome. Right.
Yeah.
No. In a perfect world.
It's not the prettiest picture.
Right. In a perfect world, I would be like, okay, yeah, it's cool. You know, like I wouldn't get mad myself about it. Right. I wouldn't let my respect button get pushed, but that's the reality, right? People are broken in different ways. So,
well, now the world knows how broken I am.
Well, you're awesome in a lot of other ways, right? And you're awesome in this way too, because I think this is kind of the whole thing that I'm hoping people are getting out of this is this is why we work in some ways, right? Because we don't shy away from like, I don't like, again, I mean, sorry, I'm picking on some of these MRA advocates or, you know, who are like, call the cops and have your wife thrown in jail or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, I get that, I guess. But like, what is the goal here, right?
Yeah.
Is your goal just to one up your wife? Right. If that is your scenario, is that the goal? You're just trying to one up your wife and like now you've got something on her so that you can go ahead and divorce her and you've got a leg up in the divorce because, well, she was arrested for domestic violence.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Not in a like, are you in this relationship? Right. Like, what is the point? Like, is the point to one up your spouse or is the point to actually have a good relationship?
Yeah. We've always settled it on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tried to, and that's the thing I think this made our marriage so great is that like, we'll try to have a hard conversation. We'll work through it, whatever that is. Right. And I don't, and I won't, I won't say any of those things here. There's been enough tears shed, but like, I don't hold back from telling you the hard thing. Right?
No.
And sometimes you do shed tears and
even after, me just losing my mind, we still go back to the subject.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever it was
that caused
it didn't get resolved. So we go back to it.
Yeah. It's like there's like the intermission. Okay, you're having a fit, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And like, okay, fit's over.
Yeah.
Now let's figure out what the hell was the thing that caused the fit. And we're going to work that out.
And sometimes it goes like, are you ready now to have this conversation? And I'm like, nope, not yet.
Yeah.
Still need a little more time. Or sometimes I come to you and you're like, no, not yet.
Yeah. That's pretty rare with me though.
Rare.
That's pretty rare with me.
But
yeah. I usually like to just like get it done. Like,
Yeah.
let's have the conversation and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're kind of,
spicy.
Well, it takes you longer to kind of calm down.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, sometimes it's like for me, because I think I'm not as emotionally invested in whatever it is that, caused you. And I guess that makes sense. I mean, if it caused you to fly off the handle, like it wasn't an issue for me, it was an issue for you. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I will, I'm over it quicker, right? As soon as kind of like the fit throwing is over and I'm like, okay, that's done. Like, let's go back and talk it. But you're still like emotionally like,
sometimes I need more time
and just to take the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. And then usually we talk through it. I was going to say usually we always, one way or the other, it gets resolved. Right.
Yeah. Maybe not that hour, maybe not that day, but it gets resolved.
Yeah. And sometimes, whatever the issue is, like we've had stuff that's come up 3, 4, 5, 6 times, right? Because like we thought it resolved, it wasn't. There's some other angle of it. There's some other something, right? And it gets you spun up again and all that. Yeah. So I don't know. Is this helpful to anybody? Like, or you just like these are two crazy people? Like, how the hell did they make it 30?
Well, it's one
years?
Crazy person and a sane person.
Yeah. No, you have a lot of good qualities about you, but yeah. I mean that's. I hope this is, I hope the message that gets communicated here is like, we're talking about the real issues, right? And we're telling you out of our experience, the people we've known, we've had a lot of great friends over the years. Yeah. And we've had insight, we've had issues with our own parents, right? So I think, are there things that we don't know? And there are certainly things that other couples have experienced. Yeah. 100%. Absolutely. Everybody's got their own dynamics in their relationship, right?
Yeah.
But we can speak out of the dynamics that we've had, that we've observed, those sort of things. And that comes from a genuine place. Yeah. Right. And just talking about the things that have worked in our marriage.
Well, yeah. And I think that's what makes our marriage good is that we are two people that accept one another for what we bring to the table, baggage and all, right? Like, I'm well prepared for your baggage and you're well prepared for mine. And we make that work.
Yeah. Yeah. I have like a backpack and you have like 40 suitcases or something.
Whatever, man.
I'm just kidding.
I have more shoes than you do.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I don't think I could, our closet would fit any more shoes if I had more shoes.
Yeah. But yeah, we've done a lot of learning and growing and.
Yeah. in a lot of ways. I mean, and I really mean this when I say like our marriage is good, right? This is an area in our marriage that has been a problem, and it was a pretty serious problem in the past. And these days it's like, especially these days, like I'm so like, just, I don't want to say not immune. That's not the word I was looking for, but kind of like, it doesn't really get me that spun up because I mean, like I just talking about that incident that happened a couple of weeks ago when we were hiking, right? And it's like, what did I do? I stepped in closer and I said, "You're being a bitch. Stop being a bitch."
Yeah.
And sometimes that's really all
just
you need to hear.
In silence for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's what I say. But sometimes that's what you need to hear, and other times, it gets you more spun up. But I'm not going to hold back. Right. And tell you like, hey, like you're being a bitch. This is being disrespectful. This is pushing my disrespect button. And like cut that shit out. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's just the reality. Right. But that like 20 years ago, 25 years ago,
that would not have ended nicely.
Yeah. It was harder. Right.
Yeah. Much harder.
It was harder, and it was, yeah. I mean, I could tell a funny story maybe to lift it a little bit.
Is it going to be funny?
Well, I think it's funny.
That doesn't mean it's going to be funny.
I've talked about, I used to race bikes for a long time. I raced bikes for 20 something years, bicycles. And so biking has always been very important to me. And I've drug you out on many cycling excursions that you were not. Kind of much like this hiking excursion.
Yeah, it seems to be a pattern almost.
Well, I have this whole like this background in endurance athletics and Ironman triathlete and raced bikes and ran marathons and like all this sort of stuff, right? So like I kind of personally like get off on like going out and just like death marching.
Yes.
Right? Like let's just push ourselves to the brink of death.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, that's fun. Right? Like it's hurts.
Not fun.
I'm tired, and I have drug you out on those sorts of things before.
Yes.
And you don't necessarily find so much fun in those activities as I do.
No. Plus, I am not a cyclist like you are a cyclist, and I don't have the same handling skills.
Yeah. Or ability to keep up and all that other stuff.
That too.
Which I understand when I take you out, right?
Now you do.
Yeah, maybe not so much back then, and I would try to push. But where I was going with, so we were riding one of our local mountain bike trails, and you kind of reached this breaking point of like I was dragging you around too much, right?
Yeah,
and like you weren't good, and so we stopped, and I'm laid our bikes down, and you're just throwing a fit, right?
Yeah,
you're over it.
I'm over it.
You're having one of your moments in the middle of the woods, and next thing I know, you walk over to my bike and you are jumping up and down on my very expensive race wheels.
Yep. This is all true.
Ruined them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back when I didn't have a whole lot of money either.
Yeah.
To replace something like that.
That was around the time I learned to start throwing socks.
Yeah. I don't think it was maybe later than that. I still remember you throwing some items that maybe we shouldn't have been thrown. Anyways, so yeah, well, at the time it wasn't really that humorous, but it now I kind of look back on it, it's a little bit of humor, but like,
do you accept any responsibility?
Sure. I mean, this is one of the things that we had to work out between us. I didn't really understand. I was like, hey, I enjoy this activity. Yeah. Drag you out with me to do this activity. And I'm like, why aren't you enjoying this activity?
Because it sucks.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you feel like you're going to pass out, right? Like, this is fun. Right? You've pushed yourself hard enough that you feel like you're going to die.
Yeah.
This is fun.
But no, that was terrible. Then we had to walk out.
Yeah. Well, that was your whole point. It was like you were mad that we were riding as fast as we were. And, and I, again, in this whole like feeling unworthy, maybe you were like, you can't keep up. Right. And I have to keep stopping and waiting on you. And that was building frustration in you.
Yes.
And,
it was very frustrating.
So yeah, that was your remedy. You smashed my wheel so that my bike was unrideable. And, we ended up having to walk out. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've already said it's not my finest trait.
Well, I look back at it and laugh now.
Oh, good. Me too.
Yeah. I can tell funny stories like this to strangers on the internet.
Great. I love this.
Maybe we should start making this like a weekly thing.
No.
Let's talk about like, remember the time the Avis did that or that?
No.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding.
That is not funny. And we don't have that many stories.
No, there's not that many. That was just one that sticks out. I especially remember how painful it was because, back at that time, I mean, definitely like money was more of a struggle. And I'm like, how could you do this to me? Like, I'm supposed to be racing this bike. And that was like $1,000 race wheel. You just jumped up all and down and ruined. So
I did learn that day how delicate the wheels are, just how delicate they are.
Yeah, especially the race wheels because they're super lightweight.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Well, here we are.
Yeah, it's all right. It all worked out, and that's kind of the point. It all works out, right? Yeah. So like, don't throw away your marriage on this stuff. Like, have the recurring theme is have the hard conversations, right? Mm-hmm. Have the hard conversations. Don't throw the marriage away. I don't know what you. I mean, everybody has something, right? Like if I was my father, for example, and I was beating Avis every day, right? Like I mean, I'd have a hard time arguing that like Avis shouldn't leave me, right? Because like to me, that's going to be unacceptable, right? You should not be a man should not be doing that to a woman, right? But as a man for a woman, to me, that's not like a divorce thing, right? That's like a let's work through it thing.
Yeah.
But, as I already said, like infidelity, that's probably going to be my thing.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to put up with that.
Yeah.
So, okay. I don't know. You think this is helpful to anybody?
I mean, I feel better. I feel like I've been through some therapy.
A little cathartic therapy session here, impromptu.
It's great.
You should be feeling like all kinds of cathartic. Like we had great fun in Vegas last night, and now
Yeah, Vegas was fun.
Yeah.
I think I need that again tonight because you've traumatized me.
We're going to bed early, man.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm exhausted.
Apparently, I can't do that another night.
Apparently exhausted enough to the point that you can make my eyes water and my voice get a little crackly from emotional.
I just like to share.
Yeah. Or I mean, like I could just have my TRT dose too high, and like it's just the estrogen or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You've just gone off the deep end.
Yeah, that's something we one of these points we're gonna have to talk about that too, because this is like a new thing for us. Like we both started some kind of HRT stuff in the last 6 months.
Yes.
And it's been an interesting journey.
Definitely.
Yeah. So there's another episode though.
Yeah.
Not going down on this one.
No, that's gonna take too long.
Yeah. Do you think it's made your hormones more balanced though? Like, do you feel more?
Compared to what?
I don't know.
Compared to like my 20s or compared to like a year ago?
Yeah, like a year ago. I think in your 20s, like no doubt. As you've gotten older and like,
I've gotten older.
As you've gotten older, you've gotten
I've gotten older.
You've gotten a lot. I don't know. Mellower.
Yeah. No, definitely for sure. I was going through like when I would look in the mirror, I just didn't feel like I looked like myself. I didn't feel like myself. I was very tired a lot.
Yeah.
And it definitely gave me some energy back. And while I wasn't gaining weight, I just felt fluffy.
Yeah.
And so it's helped kind of eliminate that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my biggest complaint. Like I felt like sex was still great.
Yeah.
Everything was great. I mean, I felt fine, but the thing I was really struggling with is like I just could not get weight to come off, right? Like I'm doing all the things. I'm eating macros, right? And I know somebody will say, well, okay, like just eat fewer calories. Yeah. I mean, I could have for sure. I mean, there's a way to do it, right? But like I'm trying not to lose too much muscle mass, right?
Yeah,
again, as a guy who spent all my muscle building years like doing athletic sports, like I'd like to. I'm kind of getting now where I'm like, man, it'd be nice to build a little more muscle than I've had in other times in my life. So I don't want to reduce my calories, to some crazy low number just to lose fat. And I think that was really the thing I was struggling with is like trying to find the right calories, and I'm already working out. I'm already doing all the stuff. I'm in the gym lifting, 4 days a week and doing my cardio here and there. I've dialed that back a lot, but since going on TRT, like 6 months ago. Like I've dropped a little more than 20 pounds now, I think. And
like,
intentionally
slow.
Yeah, intentionally slow, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
you're helping me with that. Like we don't want to like go too slow because again, we're just trying to maintain as much muscle mass as possible. And at some point, when I get to where I'm at, then I'll try bulking up a little bit. But that was the big thing. Now, like I was like, we'll talk about this another time, and now we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that was the thing for me, and I think that has been the kind of like nicest thing. Like I felt pretty energetic before. Like I don't know that I feel any more energetic.
I think you're more energetic.
Do you?
I do.
Okay. I don't know that I've kind of sensed that about myself, but
yeah,
I definitely like the big thing for me was like weights actually starting to come off doing all the same stuff I was doing.
Yeah. Even less exercise than you were doing.
Yeah. Even less. Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm happy about that. So far so good. We'll see. It's come with some other weird, trying to get it dialed in at first couple months, a little bit difficult, but yeah. Anyways, we'll go there another day. We'll talk about that. I'm not an expert on this, right? This is like, we're newbies.
Oh my gosh.
To this. So, and I know some of these guys have been on it for 15, 20 years, and those are the guys who really listen to about this. But,
yeah.
So far so good. I'm not unhappy. I'm pretty happy about it.
Excellent.
It's helped me achieve what I wanted to achieve. So, all right, good enough. Oh, no, way longer than I wanted to. I thought this was going to be like a 20-minute conversation, and we're over that. So,
okay.
All right. Thanks, you guys, for listening. I don't know when we're going to do the next one of these. We're going to be traveling soon. And we're going to be gone for like 6-8 weeks, something like that. I don't really know exactly. Hopefully no more than 6. So unless we do this on the road, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we will. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.